I want to now move then to the interfaith dimension. I want to highlight the last sentence you just said. You said common purpose, common faith. Does having common purpose and common faith therefore preclude the possibility of having interfaith friendships because friends from another religion do not share a common faith? Or, and here I ask you to address this both in theory and through your personal experience, can friendship across religions allow us to rise beyond apparent differences of faith and apparent differences of purposes and still identify a higher ground that allows the cultivation of meaningful interreligious friendship?
My first experience in interreligious, I would say first ecumenical friendship, was the friendship with an Orthodox monk who was decisive in my own spiritual development, in my own theological way. And this friendship lasted over the years till his death in 2001. But then the very, very important experience of Jewish friendships, allow me to say one as perhaps the longest lasting friendship, Jewish friendship, is with Rabbi Arthur Schneider in New York. We have known each other more occasionally in New York many, many years back, and little by little it grew into a real cordial and deep friendship. And what is my experience in this friendship is we share a common vision. That's his Appeal of Conscience Foundation, the courageous engagement of different religions into the one purpose of helping peace process. But through this common purpose grew also a very personal friendship with him and with his wife, Elizabeth. And for me, we have just met recently in Vienna, and it's always, I would say it's a blessing of the Lord to meet in a friendship over the differences between our religions. And it's difficult to say why the bridge of friendship is not pushing away the differences, but making these differences even a kind of bridge, part of the bridge, because it's part of the mutual respect, the mutual love for what is dear to the other. And I think this is the basis for a true interreligious dialogue. You must profoundly love what your friend in this dialogue loves most. If you have this love for the innermost loved values or loved realities of your friend, then the difference becomes a bridge.
This is beautiful, and it completely resonates with the work that our think tank did in preparation for the forthcoming meeting in Oxford. The papers should be on their way to you, so you have a chance to look at how we have reflected and thought about this from perspectives of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. But this notion of constructing bridges across differences and identifying different ways of establishing common purposes has been one of the main themes, and you have hit the nail on the head, not that we are necessarily correct, but in the sense of having really identified an approach that's completely that of our own. And in that then leads me to the question, and you may choose to refer to another friendship other than one with Rabbi Schneier in order to bring us with more data, but in what way does the interfaith friendship give something that the friendship with someone inside the religion doesn't? In what way are we enriched differently?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It is the experience of the difference. I do not dare to say that I had a personal friendship with Emmanuel Levinas, but I was his student for 4 years, even being myself already professor at the University of Fribourg, but I sat, so to say, at his feet every fortnight when he came to give his lectures, and specifically his lecture on rabbinic exegesis. What impressed me in listening to Emmanuel Levinas is that through the difference, the own faith is seen in a new light, and I think this is the great riches. Levinas has put this in the heart of his philosophy: the faith of the other being that obligation of respecting the otherness of the other as being of the same human nature, the otherness as the bridge to be oneself, to be oneself. So I think what interfaith, interreligious dialogue brings new as a new element to the own life of faith is that you see your own faith with the eyes of the difference, but not as a hostile difference, but as a respected difference. And that makes the whole difference. It's not relativism. My deepest conviction is inter-religious dialogue must be between the believers of the different religions and not between the dissidents. Those who criticize their own religion are not my favorite partners of dialogue, but those who live from the midst of the heart of their own religion, but have the capacity to look into the eyes of the other, seeing the otherness of the other, but seeing him as a brother, as a friend. And that, I think, that is I had an experience of this kind with a Muslim in Iran, with Ayatollah Tazkiri, who was my host, who invited me to Iran 10 years ago. And despite the enormous difference between Christian faith and Shiite Islam, nevertheless, there was a deep meeting, and I'll never forget this scene at the airport early in the morning in Tehran, when by chance we met a last time. He was going to Mecca with his pilgrims. He had postponed his journey for 2 days to host me, and I flew to Rome to a meeting of cardinals in Rome, and we met at the airport by chance. We had said farewell the evening before, but we met again, and I said, Ayatollah, on your face, I see radiant the joy of your pilgrimage. And then he was very moved and said, I will pray for you in Mecca. And I said, I will pray for you in Rome. This experience of the otherness as being a bridge to one's own riches, I think this is the way you have chosen for your effort, which I only can greet.
And not only that, I don't think I could have offered a better summary of the work of Elijah than the way you captured it as bringing together those of deep faith and due to their deep faith, they're coming together in an encounter, encounter with one another.
Yeah.
And I think the touching to the depth of faith, to the depth of friendship, and then extending it further is really our mission, which maybe should lead me then to my concluding question, which is, in what way have you been able to take the experience of deep, I would say transformative, even though you haven't used that word, but I believe it's implied in what you've said, transformative friendships, and carried that further into your community rather than just a personal, isolated experience?
Yeah, that's a very important question. How can you bring back such a deep experience as I had with Ayatollah Tazkiri in Tehran, or the friendship with Rabbi Arthur Schneier, into the daily life of our communities? I would say the first element is that having had these experiences, you will never speak in a respectless way about another religion, because you have seen faithful of the other religion that have become your friends. So you do not speak badly about your own friends. And secondly, it helps you to focus in our own religion that aspect of universality that is in every deep religious experience. I think in the Jewish tradition, it's the promise of the pilgrimage of the nations to Jerusalem. They all will gather under the same Lord and under his shepherdship. So this fundamental openness to the nations is deeply rooted in the innermost heart of the Jewish tradition. Similar experiences or teachings we have in Christian faith with this call to all nations. And I think to deepen the universality of one's own religion in the respect of the universality of other religions, it's the greatest challenge theologically and humanly. But it's a reality on the experimental level. And I
experimental
think we should,
or experiential?
Experiential level, yeah. And I think we should go on working on this point. We all the great religions have a call to universality. How to handle this call in the light of the bridges of friendship? I think that's the great challenge theologically and in our friendships.
I think you couldn't have done. Maybe I should appoint you spokesperson for the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders, because you so perfectly summed up our vision and our mission. I would add one thing to what you've just said, and as probably as the concluding note for our conversation, and that is that you had spoken of the fact that your intra-religious friendship, in other words, intra-Benedictine or intra-ecumenical with your other friends, were largely study-based, and that common study provided the foundation for growth, sharing, mutual transformation. When you moved to talking about other interreligious experiences, they were more practically oriented and less study-oriented. And therefore, I humbly submit that there's an experience out there that may still await discovery, and that is common learning with other religious traditions and creating through the learning process between religions in the same way that you've been engaged with the small group that you've been working with for decades within the Dominican community. And I would say that this really is the mission of Elijah, bringing the people together in this learning process. And I would consider that your contribution in this video interview is part of the learning process, because you have greatly enriched our understanding by offering an authentic experience that completely resonates with what our scholars have proposed to the leaders. And I also submit that your future involvement with our group, to which we very much look forward, will continue to provide opportunities for you to share in a common learning with other religious leaders that will deepen friendship on the one hand and will be nourished by the resource of friendship for the other. And I look forward with great anticipation to such mutual sharing in the future, and I'm grateful to you for partnering in that.
Thank you, Rabbi Allen. Many, many blessings for your work.
Our work.
Our work, right?
Our
You
work.
are.
Our work.